Hey everybody, it's Eric, your friendly Sportsnet, and this is Sportsnet News, episode number 4. Now, on today's show, I'd like to talk to you guys about the MLB. As you know, Major League Baseball has been suspended just like every other sports league since the middle of March due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the biggest difference between the MLB and, say, the NHL or the NBA is that the MLB was wrapping up their spring training and hopeful for a beginning of the regular season at the end of March, beginning of April. The other leagues, on the other hand, obviously were near the end of their season and wrapping up, getting ready for playoffs. I personally find this a huge advantage in regards to the MLB. My personal opinion is the MLB has a big advantage this way strictly because now they can start their regular season whenever they choose, whether it be July or August, do up to an 82 game season as they've discussed, which is huge. So, I mean, it's not a full 162 games, but at least they could hopefully get at least half a season in, followed shortly after a short spring training of some sort just to kind of get everybody warmed up and ready to go. Now, one of the biggest issues right now in the MLB is the talk of salaries. As you know, some of these players are making $30, $40, $50 million a year, and they expect to get paid a lump sum of some sort in regards to that, seeing as the season was suspended due to something not preventable. So you get somebody who makes $50 million a year, they only work half the season, you'd expect, okay, well, maybe I'm getting 25 mil. Well, probably not. It looks like it's going to be significantly less. Now, that is the big issue that the MLB is dealing with right now. They're trying to decide between the Players Association and the owners and everything like that, how they can sort out the income. Obviously, like every other league, the income this year in the MLB is going to be significantly lower because they won't have ticket sales for games, they won't have the jerseys being bought at the games, the concessions, etc. So I personally think the MLB should definitely try and work something out. It may not work out the best for a lot of these players, especially the high price players, but at the same time, I personally think this is a big step because this also reiterates the fact of look at the other North American sports leagues where they have salary caps, which the MLB does not. So the MLB not having a salary cap creates teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Dodgers and some of these high-end teams that can just go out and say, oh, you want to play for us? Yeah, we'll give you $150 million for 4 years. Whereas other teams, like the lower-end teams like Tampa Bay and even the Blue Jays to an extent, being owned by a corporation like Rogers, can't exactly fork over that kind of money for the big name players. So hopefully in some way or another this will get worked out and maybe eventually you'll see a salary cap in the MLB, but that's probably a long ways down the road. Now, in regards to the restart of the MLB, it's going to be interesting because I personally think they should go with let's move everybody into their spring training facilities, just strictly due to the fact that you can have everybody in two specific spots, Arizona and Florida, especially for a team like Toronto. Toronto will not be able to play any home games no matter what, just strictly due to the fact that as soon as somebody crosses over the Canadian border, they have to quarantine for 14 days. So they're not going to be able to submit every team to that as soon as they come over. It would just draw out the entire season. So the best bet for Toronto and a lot of these other teams is to play at their spring training facilities in, like I said, Florida or Arizona, strictly due to the fact that A, you're not going to have fans anyways, so you don't need that home crowd advantage. But also B, it just makes it easier to try and contain everybody. You have the hotels, you have the facilities, everything there. You can get them from point A to point B very easily without having to worry about the transportation and the flights between cities and all that kind of stuff. Now, the biggest challenge of this, obviously, would be trying to figure out, are they going to have a full 82 game season? And if so, is there going to be interdivisional? Because if there's an interleague or interdivisional, it's going to cause a few issues in regards to traveling between, say, Arizona and Florida and back, or just having teams in Florida play each other and having teams in Arizona play each other. So as I wrap this up, I'd just like to say, for everybody's sake, like every other league on the face of the planet right now, just getting into the norm is something that a lot of fans just really want. Now, I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I do love my baseball, so being able to see them back would be a huge thing, especially for the Jays. They have a lot of young talent like Vladdy Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, all these guys that are coming up in the ranks that could possibly help this team challenge for a World Series. That's where it gets interesting, because in an 82 game season, you have a fairly big hot stretch throughout that 82 games. You can actually make the playoffs, when realistically in 162 games, there was probably a zero chance of certain teams making the playoffs. So as I finish, I'd just like to say, let's hope for the best. Hopefully by July, they'll be having the MLB back. That is the plan. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and hope that we can have at least a half a season of baseball, followed by a World Series playoffs, probably in sometime October, November, let's say. So anyways, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please click like. If you really like this video, subscribe. It's huge, huge help, and feel free to share and spread the word. Thanks, guys, and have a great day.